hello, everyone. Welcome to Willingness Wednesday. I am your coach, Bevon Squires, and today we are sponsored by Spirit Source Connection. And so, if you have been following along, then you know that this month of May has been Mental Health Awareness Month. And each week we have come on with a new practitioner or someone who has had an incredible mental health story so that you guys can understand mental health from different aspects, okay? But before I get into any of that, I want to say if you are new, thank you so much for meeting me here today. And this is a safe place for you. Here at Spirit Source Connection, we believe that we are multidimensional spiritual beings and that we have supernatural power that we enact through our intuition, our visualization, our imagination, and our creativity. Oh my goodness. Yes, we are pure expressions of the creator. And if you are returning, I want to say thank you so much because I could not do this work without you. Thank you for allowing me to be your coach. Thank you for coming here each week to hear the information that I have to bring to you that's going to broaden you, stretch you, and make you and help you become the person that you are intended to be. Well, I tell you, I am not going to disappoint you this week. Oh my goodness. I have my friend Jennifer Fentress who's going to come on and speak to us today. Let me tell you just a little bit about Jennifer. Jennifer is a dynamic individual. She is definitely one to know. Jennifer has made it through some very difficult times in her life. She has grown through those situations and circumstances and events to become this wonderful individual that she has always been, but did not know how to actually become her. Well, she's her today. And I'm telling you, she has a wonderful story to tell. I met Jennifer years ago. And then we reconnected when I was writing the Energy Harvest workbook. She actually helped me edit the book, and we have become really great friends since then. And I need you to understand her story. There's someone out here who has been in Jennifer's shoes, and she's going to come today and tell you about that. Now, Jennifer, will you unmute yourself and say hello to the people and let them know who you are today?
Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you wonderfully.
Perfect. So let me introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Helena Fentress, and I am a survivor of domestic violence. So now go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So the story or this life situation really goes back to my 20s, my early 20s, 2004, 2005-ish. And I met the man of my dreams. I was in love. He had eyes the color of he had eyes the color of the ocean. He was a sweetheart, and it's actually when I started thinking about how we met for this podcast, I realized I met him on the day I got fired from my job. So I thought it was kind of like fate. It was like I was working night shift at a like one of those super Walmart stores or Meijer stores. And I ended up getting fired that night. And instead of going home and just being by myself, because I was used to being up late, I went and hung out with some of my friends. It was like a Friday night. And so I went over, and when I got there, he was there. He was a cousin to another one of my friends, and he had just moved in town from Gary, Indiana. And we kicked it off that night, So once I met him, it was kind of like we never really wanted to be apart. So naturally, it was like, hey, let's get an apartment together. Like we'll split the bills, we'll do this, we'll do that. And so we were trying to build a life together. Neither one of us had a lot of money. I mean, we started with nothing. We got us a cheap apartment on the east side of Indianapolis, not the greatest part of town at all. But we had each other, and everything went good. We started accumulating stuff until his mother moved in. So so he didn't tell me she was moving in, and he acted like he didn't know she was coming, but she came at 3 o'clock in the morning banging on the door with about 6 or 7 bags.
Oh my.
And she
Okay.
lived in Gary. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? Well, she needs a place to stay. Okay, well, we didn't get along whatsoever. Um, and that's kind of when this is probably a year into the relationship, and that's when things started going bad. And I started noticing the trends, but I noticed the red flags, but I noticed them way too late. Because I didn't know any better. I was 22, didn't know any better. You know, was in love, trying to figure out, okay, how do I navigate this now? Um, because it came a time where he didn't want to work.
A question for you.
Okay.
You said you started noticing red flags, but you didn't know them to be red flags at that time. Can you tell us a little bit more about the red flags that you were seeing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He constantly accused me of cheating. Um, we would so we didn't have a car, so we'd walk to the gas station to get cigarettes or whatever. I found out he was timing me to
Ooh.
see how long I'd be gone for. Um, and the only reason I noticed was because one time he's like, well, last time it took you 18 minutes and this time it took you 24 minutes. I'm like, what?
Wow.
um,
Okay.
couldn't keep a job. He would get a job, work for 3 weeks, and be like, "Oh no, they don't appreciate me. No, wouldn't keep a job." Um, Picking fights, um, but really it was the constant accusations. If I was at work and I didn't answer my work phone, say I stepped out of the office, then I'm cheating. Um, yeah, it was always something. He would always find a reason for something to create blame. Found out he was the one cheating on me.
Yes. Okay. All right. Now we understand what those red flags are. And
Right?
if he was trying to diffuse his own situation by blaming things on you and timing you and keeping track of you, these are all forms of control, aren't they? And manipulation.
Well, and then also he didn't want me hanging out with anybody. He didn't want me getting phone calls except from my parents. Yeah, it was bizarre.
Okay. Thank you for elaborating on that. Now go ahead as you were saying.
So yeah, so things started turning backwards. Once his mom moved in, she was doing crazy stuff like she was having hot flashes. It's wintertime. Instead of going outside, she'd leave the front door open. So we would constantly get into it. She was always burning the food because she wasn't used to an electric stove. I don't know. It was always something. So finally she moves out. Um, but me and him, his relationship, it was kind of fractured after that point. Um, but the only reason I stayed because I found out I was pregnant.
Oh my. Okay.
So things started getting bad. I get pregnant and I'm like, okay, I could fix this. Things will get better. And on June 28th, 2006, Lonzel Mobley tried to kill me. Um,
Oh my.
yeah, so like I said, things weren't really bad, but they weren't great. But for some reason that night I went to bed. He got mad about dinner that I made. He didn't like it. So I just got tired of hearing it. So I put mine in the fridge and I went to bed. I had to work in the morning. And at 3:30 that morning, he comes in the bedroom. He takes the mattress I'm sleeping on and he picks it up and he throws me off the bed onto the nightstand. And then he jumps on top of me and just starts punching me. Probably about 5 or 6 times before I could finally kick him off of me. So I'm just kind of waking up. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What's your problem? We're arguing. I finally get him off me. We're arguing. And so I tell him to leave. He won't leave. I try to leave, and he punched me in the face, knocked me to the ground. So he wasn't going to let me leave. So I grabbed the phone and I hit 9-1, and he grabs the phone and he threw it up against the wall and he shattered it. So I pick up the phone pieces and I lock myself in the bathroom. Right? He's still yelling. I'm yelling. I'm getting the phone. I put it back to really the batteries just popped out. These are on the old cordless phones, right?
Sure, sure.
So I was able to put the battery back in and then put all the little stuff back in and close up the thing. Well, he heard the phone beep when it cuts back on, and he broke down the bathroom door. He grabbed me around my neck and he just started squeezing.
Oh,
And I could look in his eyes, and he wasn't he wasn't gonna let go. I tried to fight back. I scratched him. I tried pushing in his eyes. Tried kicking him. Tried getting his wrists off my neck. Nothing I did was working, and it got to the point where I accepted death. Like I'm like, this is it. This is how it's gonna be. Like I started getting dizzy. Um, Started seeing stars. I still couldn't get them off. I couldn't breathe, and then just everything went black.
oh my.
Yeah. So it was like that for probably about 2.5 hours, and I opened my eyes. I was laying on the floor, halfway in the bathroom, halfway in the hallway. Um, I really didn't feel any pain that I remember at that moment. I was probably still in that, hyped up adrenaline phase. But I didn't move. I just laid there and opened my eyes and I saw him and he was pacing the floor, you know, look head down like this. Um, I guess trying to figure out what to do next,
He
because he
thought he
probably,
had killed you, didn't he? He thought he had really killed you there on the floor.
yeah, I can only imagine, right?
Yeah.
So when he had his head down and he looked away, I jumped up and I ran.
Whew.
I ran down the steps. I had nothing but a t-shirt and some underwear on. I ran down the steps, around the corner, through the courtyard, and I was about half a block from the payphone. And he grabbed me by my hair and he said, "Bitch, I'm not going back to jail." And he started pulling me back to the apartment. Now I'm holding on to the staircase because that was the only thing there. But eventually he overpowered me, picked me up over his shoulders like a fireman, and just started walking real casually back to the apartment. Whole time I'm kicking, screaming, um, and he was just that strong. He was just, we walked back to the finally we get around that corner back to go up the steps, and there was two cops out there with the guns drawn. And they're like, drop her. So of course he drops me. And
Wow.
so they're talking to him, they're talking to me. They asked me if I needed an ambulance. I said yes. And apparently they asked him something and he said, "She hit me first." And so they called it mutual combat and let him walk off the scene.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow, I'm so sorry to hear that.
So they did call me an ambulance. I went to St. Vincent's. I ended up having a sprained back. I ended up losing my baby. Um, and I remember laying on that hospital bed. St. Vincent's. It's a Catholic hospital, and they have the Jesus statue on the cross in every room. And I just laid there and call it a foxhole prayer or what, and I just said, "God, I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
I can't do this. It's got to change." And I must have dozed off. They gave me some medicine, and you know, and I woke up.
Jennifer, you are so courageous. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for allowing us into your trauma, into this night of horror that you practically lost your life. And God decided that no, He had a better plan for you. I'm so grateful that those police officers were there to help you in that moment. And it didn't sound like you were able to ever make a 911 call that connected. So someone must have heard you screaming and fighting. And oh my gosh, I am just so happy that someone was able to call on your behalf. And I know that you are not alone and that there's someone out here that has faced the same trauma And so now that you have made your way through, we want to hear what your process was after you got to the hospital, after you cried out to the God of your understanding, God, help me. I can't do this anymore. Then what happened, Jennifer?
They took me to a shelter. Um, I went to a domestic violence shelter. I stayed there for 63 days. When I went, I didn't have any clothes. So I did go with an advocate and was able to get some work clothes and basically just a trash bag full of clothes that I could bring back to the shelter, and everything else kind of got lost in the shuffle. Um, did 63 days at the shelter, saved up my money, kept my job, and was able to get an apartment and start over.
Wow. Wow. You make it sound like nothing, I was able to just start over. How difficult was that for you to start over? And what gave you the courage that you needed to actually start over instead of finding your demise, instead of staying in that down place? It sounds like you were able to pick yourself up and live for something. What was your motivation in that moment?
Well, not at first.
Okay.
My motivation was to get out of that shelter because I didn't
Okay.
like sleeping in it. One, I was injured. They put me on the top bunk. And then for like 3 weeks, I was just healing from my injuries, and good thing I was able to keep my job. I had good benefits and all that. And so I was able to get out. And then the shelter had incentives like if you complete the program, we'll pay your deposit and first month's rent and stuff like that. So I took advantage of those things. But after I left that system, I no longer had support.
Okay.
I had friends, and I was in a bad place. I didn't understand how the person who loved me, who I was about to have their child, who I was about to get married to, would try to kill me. I just didn't understand it. And it took me a long time to just kind of realize that the world doesn't owe me an explanation. He probably doesn't even know why I did it. And so I did turn to drugs and alcohol because I didn't want to feel the way I was feeling. I didn't want to think about those painful moments and try to make sense like I'm supposed to have a child. I'm supposed to be married. This is the plan. This was like what I wanted for my whole life, and now it's all just thrown to the left. And so yeah, for a long time I hung out with the wrong people. I acted out. I didn't want to live. When I lost my child, I didn't want to live anymore. Um, I attempted suicide a couple times. Thank God the gun jammed.
Oh my.
So I went through that, and I went through it alone. And just like I said, the hardest times in your life you will be by yourself. And so for a while it was, yeah, I used drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. Then I found out that I was pretty good at writing,
Okay.
right? And so the people I was around encouraged me to write poetry. And so that's when I started doing spoken word poetry. And that way, because I wasn't always able to talk about what happened and how I felt, but I could do a metaphor, an allegory, or something in poetry to explain it without actually saying it. And
Sure.
then I also used poetry as mantras. So, like, when my brain would start going somewhere it probably shouldn't, I would tell myself, you can do this. You just have to try. Stop making up stories and telling yourself lies. You know what I mean? That I would have in my head, and I would just tell myself those things over and over again until, those other thoughts stopped, which led to the book Spiritual Utterings from a Troubled Soul, which, all the poems are from like 2009 to 2012, and kind of how I got over certain parts.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness. That is so creative, the way you were able to take your trauma, because that's what that was. That was trauma that you sustained. and then trying to reconcile this spiritual injury from someone who you had thought would be your end all be all, would be the man of your dreams, the man, your husband, the father of your child. Everything just came crumbling down. What a traumatic experience you went through, Jennifer. Oh my God, you are such a shero right now. And the fact that you were able to use your poetry to minister to yourself, even as an outlet for expressing a healthy outlet, I should say, for expressing yourself, as opposed to the drugs and alcohol, which did not allow you to express yourself. It was just eating you from the inside out, I would imagine. And so now that you have used your creativity to author your poetry book. Can you please tell us the name of it again a little bit slower so that the audience can go and read your book and purchase your book? And please let us know. Okay, bring it up a little bit further. We can't, it's okay. For some reason, it's not
It's
focusing.
blurring.
Yeah,
Well,
it is. So just tell us the name again and where we can find it.
it's on Amazon.com and it's called Spiritual Utterings from a Troubled Soul. But if you just put my name in, it'll pop right up.
Okay, wow. How amazing is that? What you're showing us today is that you can go through troubling situations, traumatic events, and then find your way to a new place. And now that you have come to this new place, I know that you have even come to a newer place from there because you've started your own business. You are doing some really remarkable things currently in your life. Do you want to tell us about that as well?
Sure. Um, so today I have a totally different attitude. I'm really optimistic. I'm a positive person. I like to try new things. And I like to encourage other people to reach out for their dreams as well. So when people come to me and they say, "Hey, I really want to do this, but I'm stuck on this," I'd be like, "Hey, I can help you with that, or this. I know this person, they can help you with that." And so I want to see everybody win. I want to see everybody reach their goals and be successful, and kind of get past that point of fear, which stops us from doing a lot of things. And so I like doing that. As far as the business, it's called Fentress Creative Solutions. And right now we're just kind of removing barriers for people so that they can achieve that next goal. I believe that any idea backed by action can become reality.
Wait, can you say that one more time for the people in the back row?
Any idea backed by action can become a reality.
Wow, that gives so much hope. Any idea that is backed by positive action can become your reality. Oh my goodness, that is powerful. That is so powerful. And so now that you have seen your life from what it was, what it became, and what it is now, if you had something encouraging to tell someone that was in your situation, what would you tell them now? What would you say to someone who is in the situation that you were in an abusive relationship and cannot find their way out? What do you say to that person right
I would say if you don't like what you got, you have to make a change. And so whatever that change may be, it may not be leaving that person. It may be just talking to someone and letting them know what's going on. Um, but starting to implement something different. And then if you realize that you're in that situation and you are stuck, kind of be, you know, I think that bouncing the ideas off other people gives you the resources. And sometimes you don't know what's available because you're stuck in your situation. So just kind of reaching out and just say, "Hey, this is kind of going on," even if it's just to one person. And secrets keep you sick. As long as you keep it to yourself, then you're basically making the choice that this is going to continue.
now?
So
Okay,
even
so
small decisions, don't have to be anything dramatic, but just kind of come to the realization like people do die from this thing.
yes.
People
Yeah.
die from domestic. It's one of the word like police officers. It's one of the deadliest things for a police officer to, respond to be in. You don't know what's going to happen the next day. You're constantly living in fear of this person, setting them off, and you don't know what's going to set them off. So that's why I say baby steps. If you do something too big, you may trigger, the abuser. But
Wow, that is so important to know that, that you may, if you're not ready to get out of the situation, be careful of what you do so you don't trigger the person that you're living with, your abuser, to hurt you even further. And so, what I'm hearing you say is even if you're not ready to move from the situation, at least let someone know what is going on so that someone is aware of your situation. Is that
and
what
it
I heard?
made yeah, I mean, and it's not, it doesn't feel good. You're probably going to be embarrassed. You don't want other people knowing, like, hey, I allowed this to happen, or I'm in too deep. But until you hit bottom, that's the only way you're going to come back up. And if you can't do it alone, then the only other way is to reach out to a counselor, to a coworker, to a family member, someone who that you trust and know that can help you.
Wow, that is so awesome. And then to know that there are such resources available for people that are going through these situations. Your social services can help with resources as well. Okay, and so Jennifer, you've moved your way out of the tough situation. You pulled yourself up and you self motivated and you allowed people to get involved to help you motivate, to writing the poetry, to healing yourself from the inside out with the words and the mantras that you were using that you have now made available for others that are in your situation. Now, the question I want for now to ask you is where do you go from here? Now that you've started your business, you're giving back, you're helping people break through barriers, giving people courage to take the next step. Where do you see yourself going from here, Jennifer?
I don't know. And
Okay.
um so a lot of things that I do, I allow my higher power to guide me.
Okay.
And so when I listen to myself, when I listen to my higher power, that he always gives me the next step on what's next. So in this moment, I really can't tell you, like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, this, that. They say make plans, make God laugh. So um, I'm not 100% sure. I have some ideas that I'm working out, but when the time is ready, when the student is ready, the lesson will be taught. So
Wow, you have
it's
so
real.
much wisdom. You have so much wisdom, so much, you know, to tell you the truth, guys, when I met Jennifer, I had no idea that all of this was inside this beautiful soul. I had no idea that she would go on to bloom and create such a wonderful presence in the universe. I had no idea that this would be her, and this is that so much was inside of her. She seems so quiet and all of that, but I tell you, Jennifer has wonderful energy and she gives the best hugs. So if you ever come across her, let her give you a hug. It will change your perception for sure. Jennifer, I am so grateful to know you. I am so happy to hear about your journey. I know that you have encouraged us today. There is someone who has found themselves in your situation, your past situation, who sees you now as a vision of a hope. So thank you so much for coming on here, being my guest today. Now, before we wrap it all up, I want to talk about the mental health aspect of it all.
Okay.
We talked about the domestic violence and how you got yourself from there. How do you maintain your mental health today? I want to know what you do on a regular basis that keeps you positive, that keeps you from sinking back to the old way of thinking. What do you do to keep yourself motivated and in a good mental space today?
I have fun.
I love it.
I
I
have
love it.
I have fun and I set boundaries. Um, there's certain people in my life. I love them dearly, but they are over opinionated and they like to cross boundaries. And so, you set the boundary, and if they cross it, then you say, okay, I'll talk to you another day. As far as the fun, I've been trying new things. 3 years ago, I got my motorcycle license, and I bought me
Wow.
a 2021 BMW motorcycle. Last year, I learned how to kayak and went out to Eagle Creek Park and go kayaking with my stepdad and my mom and some of their friends and be out on the lake for 3 or 4 hours. Um, I just try new things. I can't say I don't like it if I've never tried it. So I'm open to a lot of, I'm open to everything at least once. But yeah, I try to schedule fun in my schedule. Friday was the Janet Jackson concert. Yesterday I went to this it was an outdoor festival. It's called Melanin in May. I got some other concert tickets scheduled throughout the summer. I ride my motorcycle. I love riding my motorcycle. Um, I go to Colts games. I go to Pacer games. I take a day out of town. I Most importantly, I've learned how to be okay with myself.
Wow, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. Coming from such an insecure place to being such a confident woman today, I'm just so proud of you and the work that you have done. And I like what you just said. You schedule yourself some fun. I've heard the saying, I don't know if you've heard it, if you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. And
You're right.
so, and fun has to be one of those priorities so that we can be well rounded and evolve in a healthy way. I am just so proud of you. And you guys, I am just really happy to be able to bring Jennifer to you. God brought her to my mind last week. And he said, call Jennifer and let Jennifer come on and tell her remarkable story of triumph from domestic abuse to finding her way to developing a relationship with her higher power, to living a life that's worth living, to encouraging others, to continuing to strive for her highest heights. And I'm just so happy to see this. And Jennifer, you are a dear friend of mine, and you will always be a friend of mine. I'm in your corner, and I'm here to support you always. And here at Spirit Source Connection, we do support our friends, and we want to bring you things that will help you take a look at your own reality, give you some identification about where you are, and then show you where your life can go. And so thank you again so much for being my guest today as we continue. No, we're not really continuing Mental Health Month, we're actually wrapping up Mental Health Month. And so this was a perfect way to wrap it up with Jennifer Fentress. And you guys go and grab her poetry book and support Jennifer. And I'm sure that there are some poetry and some poems in there that will speak directly to your heart and directly to your spirit. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. And we will look forward to seeing you again. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask God to bless you real good. And if you find yourself in any of these situations, I want you to please reach out to me, reach out to your local authorities, reach out to your local social services centers so that you can get the help that you need. Mental health is wealth, okay? Mental health is where it all begins because everything begins with a thought. And so as we take consideration of the thoughts we're thinking, then we know where we are and where we need to go. And if you ever get confused about that, I am your coach and I'm here to help you. And you can reach me by dialing 317-721-4315, or you can go to our website at www.spiritsourceconnection.com. I am there and I am here and I'm everywhere, ready and willing to help you. And so, with that, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you next time. Love ya. Bye, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you.